Let's take a look at the modal, or some grammar books call it the auxiliary, or even the modal auxiliary. It's all the same thing, and I'm going to refer to it as the modal. The modal is not a verb, even though some grammar books call it a verb, because it's not a verb. For these reasons, it doesn't have past, present, or future conjugation, and most of the time it cannot stand on its own. It absolutely needs a verb to go with it. So, how does this work? We're going to build a sentence right here. Let's have the subject. We'll have the modal, and it's always followed by the verb. Just like in a basic sentence, you have your subject and your verb, but here the modal is going to go in between the two. And may I emphasize that it is not just any verb, it is an infinitive verb, which means there's no conjugation. Examples of modals are, and we've seen this in the future, will for future, must for an obligation, would if it's a choice or a desire, should for a suggestion, and then we have these trio, could, can, and may. They're very similar, but not always used synonymously, and we're going to look at that in a moment. But could, can, and may are good for requests, permission, or possibility. For example, I could help you. I can help you. I may help you. They're all good. Now, in a normal sentence, you would simply have the subject and the verb, and if there is another verb, then you would need to add the word to separate these, and this second verb is actually infinitive. So in a normal sentence, it would be I, for example, I want to see the teacher, for example. Now, the verb to separates verb and verb, but as soon as we have a modal, remember I said that the modal is not a verb? Therefore, if I say I will, you have to follow it immediately with the infinitive verb. So we don't say I will to see the teacher. We take the to out, keep the infinitive verb, and it will be I will see the teacher. A common mistake is for people to try to put to, treating it as they would a verb. But because modals are not verbs, then you do not need to have the to. Now, let's take a look at a sentence. So in this case, students are the subject. The verb is go to school. I want to show you how a modal can change the nuance or the flavor of the sentence. It will give it a totally different meaning than if we just said students go to school, which is a basic sentence. If I say students will go to school, that means it is a future intention. So for example, in August, students will go to school. I understand that it is in the future. If I say students must go to school, it's even stronger. It's an obligation. That means there is no choice. Students must go to school, or they will not be students. If I say students would go to school, that means it is their choice. After secondary, everybody has a choice to stop their education there or continue at Cégep. Students would go to school is a choice. It's also a desire. Should. Should is a suggestion. Students should go to school. It's always a choice for them to say no, but if I strongly suggest, I will use should, because if they want to pass, if students want to pass their courses, they should go to school. Notice the difference between must and should. Must, there's no choice. It's an obligation. It's very strong. Should, there is a choice. It's a suggestion. There's always the choice to say yes or no. And in the context of could, can, or may, here's the little nuance between the two. If I say students could go to school, that means they are registered, they have the possibility to go to school, they have the permission to go to school. Same thing with can. Students can go to school, but I can also use it for something like they can go to school because the school is open and it's the session to go to school. Students may go to school. I might use that as a permission. I'm just giving examples. They really are synonymous in this case. They have permission to go to school from the administration, so they are legally allowed to go to school. Now, what happens if we want to make a question? So let's go here. Students go to school is your basic sentence, and I want to make a question. All I have to do is do as I did for a yes/no question, which is I'm going to just flip the position, and I'm going to start with the modal. Therefore, I can use any of these modals. Will students go to school? And it becomes a question. Must students go to school? Are they obliged? Would students go to school? Do they want to? Should students go to school? Is it safe? Could students go to school? Is it possible, for example? Can students go to school? Are they able? May students go to school? Do they have permission? So those are examples of how one set of words, which we call modals, can change the whole nuance of a question or a sentence.